Hello, Judith. How are you? Good morning.
I'm fine now. I tell you, that was a bit harum scarum there because I kind of came in and settled myself and dialed, got my Zoom going. I was like, oh, nothing's happening. What's happened? And I, popped my head out into the main office and said, have we got a problem with Wi-Fi? And everybody's going, yes, the Wi-Fi's gone down.
So, first of all, Judith, could I ask you what influenced you or inspired you to follow this path? And I suppose your background in banking and one thing or another, how has that really prepared you for your business?
Um, People ask me this question a lot, actually, Maria. What inspired you? What got you to this point? And I mean, I can't dress it up other than anything other than I turned 40 and I was a bit bored. And I think you come to a pivotal moment in life. And for some people, it's maybe, it might be something personal. For me, it was just I turned 40. I'd been in the bank for, at that point, 20 odd years. We were just coming out, if you remember at the time, sort of banking crisis of 2007 and 8 and so on. And it had been very challenging in many ways. But as a frontline kind of employee with the bank, I was dealing with customers day and daily. And it was challenging because we were saying no to deals that historically I would have always said yes to. And I just felt there was a better way. I sort of thought at the time, SMEs maybe deserve a bit more service, a bit more caring, a bit more empathy. And as I say, turned 40. And I thought, right, okay, I'm either going to move now and do something else. Although at that point, honestly, I didn't know what I was going to do. Or I was going to stay in the bank until I was 110 and got my pension and left, the usual thing. And I have to say, I had a lovely career in the bank. I really enjoyed every second of it. I mean, there were good days and bad days like there is in any job, but I have to say I had a lovely career, and that prepared me very well for becoming self-employed and to kind of run a business and deal with businesses, because I had dealt with business banking and business owners forever. And it's funny, you don't know what you know until you leave the organization, because for a long time I was Judith Totten, Danske Bank above my head, and once you step outside that kind of comfortable structure, that's when you realize how much you've learned and how much your training has been beneficial to you. So I just took a view that I would leave the bank and I would do some consultancy work for a while, because I knew there would be a lot of companies who needed guidance and advice and help sort of through the post-crisis challenges. And that then fairly quickly moved into a very dear friend of mine in London, who's a lawyer in London, saying, why don't you set up your own finance company? Which, when you come out of a history of banking, you kind of go, oh my goodness, I couldn't do that.
And had you never thought about that before? Or, I mean,
hadn't really. I hadn't. I suppose when you're a banker, you don't ever think of yourself as setting up your own lending business, because it's just not in your psyche. So when he said do it, I kind of went, well, how do we go about that? And he said, well, look, you go and raise a certain amount of money. I will help you leverage that and raise the debt and go and write a business plan. And that was a scream, I have to say, because having read many business plans, I'd never written one before. So
the other side of it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I look back, probably the people who got the joy and pleasure of reading it must have kind of gone, oh my goodness, but and
I'm sure you knew what to put into it after all those years in the bank.
Well, I had a rough idea, and I guess that was probably the first, the biggest challenge, because I wrote the business plan sitting on holiday one year, came back, I'd raised the cash, I'd raised roughly $500,000 between remortgaging the house, and my dad lent me money at the time, and some really good network contacts. They took a punt on me, Maria. I mean, I can't say anything else other than that. They took a gamble on me as an individual. But we had to present to over 50 different financial institutions, banks, lenders, before the 58th, believe it not, said yes. And it was.
Do you think that, was there challenges, the fact that you were a female-led businesses? Do you think that was created an obstacle for you?
When I look back on it, yes, I think it was a challenge. At the time, I was so probably naive that I just kept on going and didn't take no for an answer. But looking back on it, when you think about it logically, it was a new start finance company coming out of a banking crisis in Northern Ireland, led by a female who had never run a business in her life before. So,
take a huge risk as well.
It was a massive risk. And what I didn't recognize at the time, and I know so much about now, is that getting an individual or an institution to lend to the lender. I mean, that is you've got layers in that transaction, which I fully appreciate now makes it actually much more risky for a lender, because they're relying on me and my team and our ability to assess credit and risk and so on and so forth. I just didn't really see that at the time. So I didn't perceive that my gender was an issue. And I'm not sure that it was the sole issue, but it certainly probably played a part. Yeah.
Obviously, it was better that you maybe didn't think like that, and you were so focused and single-minded, and you knew where you were going. So I'm sure at the start it was difficult. I'm sure you had lots of challenges, but what is the key thing, do you think, that made your business take off?
A great network, I have to honestly say. I mean, I've always been a sort of ferocious or voracious networker that, whilst we all have that fear when you go into a room full of strangers, it's never put me off. I've always gone in and thought, right, okay, there's a fair proportion of people in this room feel as nervous as I do. So I've always had a good network, and that has supported me immensely in the last 10, 11 years. Good contacts, good relationships, good friends in the business and beyond the business. And that is born of something that is kind of at the root of everything I do, which is, and I know it sounds a bit glib and I'm sorry for it, but kindness. I mean, I always think if you can be kind to people, it comes back in spades, Mairead. I mean, if I can't help a customer, I can't help a colleague, I'll always try and signpost them to somewhere else. And then that means whenever you're looking for help or support or guidance, and that's been the same for me when I started the business right through to today. If I need help, I know I can pick up the phone and there's always someone there will step up and give me a hand with something. So I think a really good network of really supportive people has been the single most important thing.
Well, your reputation in Northern Ireland is very much about giving back to people as well. And I met you for the first time in the Common Purpose Programme. And again, it's just, sharing your information, sharing what you have and giving other people a step up. So, I mean, that obviously has stood to you very well. So, I mean, working in business, obviously, have you felt you've had to sacrifice anything? Would you've done anything different if you look back now?
I'm not very good at looking back and beating myself up. I kind of think everything that happens for a reason and you learn from it. So I prefer to say, probably if I turn it the other way around, I'll say that the things that have not worked or the things that have gone wrong have taught me really good, really strong lessons. I mean, even back in my banking days, I didn't always have great managers, but I used to say, well, the bad managers teach you more than the good managers because they teach you how not to manage or how not to interact with people. So I kind of look back and say, yes, have I made mistakes? Absolutely. And some of them have cost me money, but you learn from that and you think, well, I'm not going to do that again. If I was saying, have I missed out in anything? Have I lost out? I've probably missed out on a bit of family life in the early days because better than I do. You're committing so many hours of every day, 7 days a week that that I've maybe missed out on some stuff. But that being said, I started this business when my own children were reasonably grown up. They were in their sort of teens, late teens, early 20s. So therefore they weren't little children. I don't think I could have done it as you've done it. I'm not sure I could have done it with little children, albeit I had a really good support structure. But I think, did I miss out on a little bit of family life? Perhaps, but I don't think my children or my family suffered terribly because of that. I don't feel guilty.
I think as well, a lot of entrepreneurs would say to you that it really consumes them. When it is like another child, really, that you have to nurture it and get it to where it has to be to succeed. So I mean, that's
I smile at that one because quite often some of my male colleagues will say to me, stop calling it your baby, because I tend to think of Upstream as my baby, which is probably very unprofessional, but you do. When you kind of dreamt it up and started it, it'll always be the baby.
Baby in the house. And then again, going back, I suppose, to the female slant on it. There's been a lot of discussion recently, with the challenges that female founders have in accessing finance, and certainly the percentages look very low. If you look at, I think across the UK, it's 1% of VC funding, and 10%, I think, in ROI. But have you got any views on this, or have you any views on how you think we should be trying to challenge or change this?
I've been very fortunate, I have to say. I never, I mean, whether it was naivety on my part or sheer pig-headedness, and it might be a mix of both, I never stopped trying, and I never stopped raising the money that I needed to raise, and I never took no for an answer. But I have been very fortunate because all of my investors are male. My funders are all male, and I never felt marginalized by my gender. So I've been very fortunate. But that said, I do mentor and I do work with a lot of, especially younger females and very entrepreneurial younger females who I absolutely take my hat off to, because they're maybe in their early mid 20s, whatever, and they're starting out. And it is hard, and I appreciate, but I think what I'm trying to work with them on is self-confidence, because actually they are just as good. I'm not going to say they're better, some of them certainly are, but they're just as good as their male counterparts. And when they go in to pitch, whether it's in a Dragon's Den type VC scenario or whether it's just a private investor, I think it's about confidence, because many of them have tremendous ability, fabulous products, great ideas. Now, the other side of that, Maria, is some of them don't. And I think as females, sometimes we take it very personally if someone criticizes us. And actually, what we have to say is, well, we're not, you know, our product or service, whatever we're doing, is not always perfect. It's important to be able to take criticism and move forward from that. So I think with young female entrepreneurs, or any female entrepreneurs, it's about the confidence in their ability and knowing they can go into a room and behave as an equal. It shouldn't be about gender. It should be about, you know, the quality of your business and your product and your service and so on and so forth. So I've been very fortunate though, and I know that I've been very fortunate. I never felt marginalized by my gender, I have to say.
Great. And do you find that you're approached by more male-led businesses or female-led businesses for funding? Because again, a lot of the research is saying that, like, you know, female founders are maybe more risk averse and like less likely to want to scale their business. And obviously that's where funding comes in. Do you find that, you know, your clients are more male or female, or?
I think, I mean, there's two answers in that. I think personally, I am probably not risk averse. But then that might be my background. It might be just that I'm a bit ballsy that way. And actually, I kind of embrace. It is strange as I get older and maybe not wiser, but I embrace change and I like change, and I enjoy that sort of scaling side. And we've new funders in the business who are very ambitious for our future, so they're pushing me beyond my own comfort zones. And I think that's very important. Client wise and contact wise within the business, I would say largely, probably 90% plus of our client businesses are male led. I don't think that's anything to do with Upstream's ability to attract female led businesses. I just think that is actually the profile of Northern Ireland business. What I would say is there are many more female directors, female FDs and so on now than there would have been 10, 15 years ago. And the female FDs do seem to, they enjoy interacting with other females. And, you know, I've got on very well with a number of our female FDs, and they do feel that they can open up and be more, I don't know what the word is. There's just more interaction really with us, but I do think we need more female-led businesses, and maybe that will change as we all evolve. Just to use your
exactly. Well, certainly in Evolve, I suppose our mission really is to create an equal society, and we are very much that it's like men and women working together and appreciating each other's worth and contribution. And we do have both male and female ambassadors for Evolve, because I, like yourself, I have found that, you know, male colleagues are always very supportive, and sometimes it's, you know, it's the confidence of some of our female colleagues to take that step and take that risk. And other things, I suppose there's other issues like, you know, childcare and other challenges that women are facing. But I see you're on the board of Princess Trust. Yeah.
I'm not on the council now, actually, because we only do a certain sort of rotation, but I'm still very much involved with their fundraising side of things, the old bags, as we call ourselves.
Oh yeah. No, I seen actually they released a statistic yesterday that 78% of all job losses due to COVID-19 have been women. So I thought that was quite a shocking statistic.
a shocking statistic. I do think, and unfortunately, no matter how we cut this physiologically, until men can have babies, there will always be, the caring side of family life does tend to fall on the mums, at least for the early period. And you know what, that I embrace that. I have to say, that is a joy. Yes, joy of being a female, really, in some respects. But yes, I do think a lot of the lesser paid, lower value jobs, unfortunately, are still populated by females. So it is a stark statistic, actually. That.
Yeah, I just noticed it yesterday. So, Judith, what is the best and the worst advice that you've been given?
Probably the best advice I was given ever really was follow your dream, or follow, do what you want to do. And that actually was my ex-boss in the bank, who ended up being my FD in here. He retired and came in and joined me in the end. But I remember going to talking to him and saying, look, I've got this kind of maybe crazy notion. What do you think? And he could very well have talked me out of it and said, no, don't be ridiculous. Because at that point, leaving an established career with an established salary and a company car and all the nice benefits you get in a bank in the middle of a banking crisis and a credit crunch and everything else probably was the craziest thing in the world. But he looked at me and he looked me straight in the eye and he said, go for it. You should go for it. If you've got a dream, do it. But the flip side of that is there were a number of my colleagues at the time who said, you're completely mad, it'll never work. So I don't know whether the completely mad, it'll never work sort of brigade actually pushed me harder in the end. But it's funny how those two pieces of advice came from the same body of people, but actually I just went for it,
Yeah, but I'm sure you always had like some sort of entrepreneurial spirit. It just didn't appear overnight. So I'm sure even within your role, you probably were constantly innovating within the bank.
I was always business development, always front end acquisition, new business acquisition. So and probably in the early days in the bank would have been a bit of a maverick in the best sense of the word. I mean, I always would have gone out to see a client and, clients don't fit boxes. I mean, it's not, you don't always have the square peg to the square hole. So I would have enjoyed sitting with a client and learning about their business and saying, what is it you need and how can we adapt what we do in the bank to what you need? And I think that was probably what got me to the point of leaving, because I sort of recognized that we were going to go into a phase where we couldn't adapt and we couldn't change and we would lose some of that flexibility. And I felt that customers, business owners, they need flexibility, because you know as well as I do, Maria, businesses don't conform to a pattern all the time. They might have a general pattern, but there's always quirks and there are always challenges and there are problems. So I'm not sure I would have called it being entrepreneurial, but I always wanted to get the deal done. I always wanted to, because I knew that, if you work with a customer and you make the deal happen and you develop and evolve and shape the deal to their business, they'll stick with you. They're with you for life, because you've been through the dark days with them. So they'll stay with you during the light days. So I think that's what drove me.
I suppose within any business, it's really you build up a trust, and people buy from people, and it's if they trust you and trust your business and trust, that you're going to be, have their back, then that's obviously
that's
for life. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And I mean, anyone coming to do business with Upstream, we will be more expensive than a bank because we're a private finance company. We're not a bank, obviously. But I mean, if you ask any of our customers now, they will say, I'd rather pay a little bit more and have, speak to a real human being when I need to, have flexibility, agility. You'll make decisions quickly. You'll flex. You'll do the things that are right for my business. It feels more like a partnership, and they'll pay a little bit more. Price sort of goes down that pecking order, if you like, because people, especially in the climate we're in now, they need a partner. They need someone who'll go on the journey with them.
So Judith, then, so back in 2011, just taking that step, that onto your own journey. I mean, it's just put you in a whole different, way of going. And obviously, you look back now, you're delighted that you've took that step and taken that risk. But do you feel that it's offered more opportunity for you? Has it opened up, new opportunities for you in business or in life?
Oh yes, undoubtedly. I mean, the probably the best part is having your own business with your own brand and a team of people working with me who are they're just like a second family. And whilst I got on tremendously well, as I said, in my career in the bank, and we had a certain team element to the bank, it's restricted. I mean, of course, there's rigidity because you've got policy and procedure. We have certain policy and procedure in here, but we've got that flexibility and freedom to do what we need to do. It's afforded me opportunities to be able to kind of involve myself with Invest NI, sit on the board there, involve myself with CBI or IOD or Women in Business, things like that I probably wouldn't have at the time or inclination to do as a banker. And probably the most lovely thing of all is standing in Buckingham Palace and picking up my badge, as I call it, my MBE, which would never have happened if I'd stayed in the bank. And I mean, to me, that was a badge for the whole team in Upstream, because we have spent so much time developing relationships across Northern Ireland, employing people, building a business, helping other businesses. That would never have happened as a banker, albeit that, as a banker, I felt I had an important role and I did my best in it. It's very different on the other side,
Brilliant. So you were awarded an MBE in 2018, receiving from Prince William. So how did that feel? That must have been amazing. And that was for services to economic development.
That was bizarre, because actually the strange thing is, and it's funny, what's going on behind closed doors. At the time, we were right in the midst of refinancing the business and taking in equity, which I'd never done before, proper real grown-up equity. And when you go into the palace, you've got to put your phone in a lockbox. You're not allowed to have your phone. And the strange thing is, I'm standing up and I'm waiting to go in, and it's a wonderful experience. I mean, surreal but wonderful. And all I could think of while I was waiting to go in was, my phone will be going bananas in that box, because I knew there would be a stack of emails. But
on Prince William to answer this.
Hold on to answer this email. But Prince William was lovely. I mean, very well versed, and clearly they have a little earpiece to tell them what to say and what to do. But he genuinely seemed to know about Upstream and be interested in Upstream, which was lovely, and made me feel special for 2 minutes of my time. And the only thing I could think of was, as I was walking backwards to curtsy, don't fall, because that would be the most embarrassing, because I had sky-high heels on, which I don't normally wear, a thick carpet, and I thought if I fall.
But you didn't fall, so.
No, I didn't fall. It was all good. And it was lovely, a family time, because we took everybody over and we stayed in the Savoy and we had lovely dinner, and it was really
a brilliant achievement for you, and it's a brilliant achievement for, again, a female leader. It's lovely that you've had the opportunity to have all those doors opened, and get your voice into all the places where the decisions are being made.
Well, it's very helpful.
What about the future, Judith? What's your plans? What's your dreams for the future?
The future, well, we're scaling the business. So the new investors that we have are American investors, and they are very ambitious for what they call specialty finance businesses. So they have acquired a number of businesses across the UK. We're their first acquisition, although they haven't acquired us, they've taken a shareholding, and they want us to drive the business brand across Ireland. So we're about to develop a UK group. We'll become part of that group, and I'll become a director and shareholder in the top co there. So that's a big step for me. Personally, scaling across Ireland is a big step. We're going to invest a lot more, hopefully employ a lot more people. So really for me, I mean, I'm 54. I don't want to be doing this when I'm 74, probably, although I don't know, who knows. But
probably will, I'm sure.
Well, I can't see myself hanging my boots up anytime soon, put it like that. But I'd like to get to a point where I can take a step back if I choose to do so. I can say, well, look, I'll do 3 days a week on the core business, and I'll do a bit more on the mentoring coaching side, because I really love that. I love chatting to the younger folk coming through, male and female, and helping them kind of with their dreams as well. So
isn't that the beauty of owning a business, is actually having the flexibility and freedom that it affords to you? I think that's one of the key things, isn't it?
It's choice. And I mean, I've really enjoyed my time on the board of Invest, for example, because that's very different to my day job. I mean, a public sector board is very different to a private sector business. And I've enjoyed that as well, because it does make you appreciate the flexibility and the fluidity of your own business. I mean, public sector is very rigid and managed very tightly, obviously. So, I'd like to do a bit more maybe of that kind of NED stuff as well. But I guess the future is just full of opportunity, and we've come through an awful year so many reasons, you know, health wise and business wise. And I do think we've got many challenges ahead, but I want to play a part in funding those businesses out of that challenge and helping them to grow and flourish. Because like you, Maria, I do think Northern Ireland, or Ireland as a whole, is a wonderful place to bring up a family and bring up, you know, and run a business. And there's great opportunity for those who want to take it. So if I can play a little part in that's
I
good.
certainly agree with you. I think there's never been more opportunity for people.
Yeah.
So finally then, what would you, for other female founders, what would be your key piece of advice that you would give them right now?
I've always said this, go for it. You know, I mean, ultimately surround yourself with good people, good advisors, people who've got your back, and whether that's male or female, you know, surround yourself with good people. Take advice, listen. I mean, you know, there's the old saying, you get 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen as much as possible and absorb the information. I'm a great sponge for probably a lot of nonsense sometimes, but just, you never quite know when you need that wee nugget that you've stored away somewhere. So, you know, go for it, do it, take advice. Don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions. I think sometimes females would tend to not ask a question in case it's perceived as being silly. And my opinion is there is no such thing as a silly question, because we're all learning every single day. And I suppose the other thing is enjoy it. I mean, it's a journey, it's a roller coaster. You'll have days when you want to cry in the shower, and you'll have days when you want to stand on top of the city hall and scream. But you know, it is, enjoy it, and it's fun. And if it's not fun and you're not enjoying it, you're not doing it right. You know, I mean, it's not all sunshine and flowers, but largely you should enjoy every moment of it, you know.
And what would you do for your own personal development or your own well-being? What's important to you, or who would you, you know, pull on to mentor, or where do you learn from?
Where do I learn from? I've got, well, as I say, there's a guy in London who helped me start the business, a very dear friend called Robert Weeks, who I would still talk to. I mean, he's a managing partner in a legal firm in London, very clever man, but also a personal friend for 30 years. And he's very well networked in and around London. So I would go to him for some advice. I've got just really good friends, ex-colleagues from the bank, who I would phone up and chat to and rant to and cry to, you know, because everybody needs that kind of colleague. What I find difficult in my business is opening up in the kind of more normal environments. I mean, there are various business groups that you can join. I kind of think, as an owner of a funding business, I can't go in and complain and shout and roar, because I'm going to lend them money down the line somewhere. So I find that I'm better for my business simply to have my own little cohort of good colleagues and friends, male and female, I may say, in different walks of life. I've got a great family, I have to say. I mean, I've got a really super family. My sister's self-employed, so she understands the ups and downs of self-employment. And family. When I go home at night, I try very hard to switch off. Home is home and work is work. That's why you can see I'm in the office. I've stayed working in the office as best I can. I struggled to work at home for the first kind of couple of months last year, because I need that definition between home and work. And as I said, my little granddaughter Emily, that's been our bubble, and she's just been a joy, you know. So I live near the seaside. I go and grab her, and we walk along the beach, and we plunder about the rock pools, and that's my kind of sanity.
And what's the first thing you're going to do now when lockdown's over?
Oh, I'm going to go shopping and spend money on silly things like clothes and shoes and handbags. And I'm going to book a holiday if I can. And then I'm going to have a big fabulous meal out with some girls, maybe you too, Maria, and cocktails and fun and laugh and giggles. And I miss the theatre, and I miss the cinema, and just those kind of normal things, to be honest.
And we had another glass of Prosecco.
Absolutely.
The Grand Central. Yeah.
The Grand Central, you're right.
Judith, thank you so much for your time. You're an inspiration, as always, and I really, really appreciate it. So,
not at all. Total pleasure. Thank you so much, Maria. And good luck to all the lovely ladies in your network. And I absolutely will hold you to that offer of the Prosecco and the Grand Central. Yes,
we're doing that, Judith.
Definitely.
So listen, we'll keep in touch, and thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you're a busy woman. So thank you for all your insights, and that'll be a real big help to all of us in the network. Yeah, okay, and all the future of female entrepreneurs that we're trying to encourage.
Anything I can do to help, Maria, no problem at all.
Brilliant. Have a lovely day, Judith.
Okay, you do. Take care.
Bye-bye.